For the hustlers and the dreamers listening. Yeah.
He moved and became mayor immediately.
Exactly.
Diddy, Epstein's Island.
What's next for you as a mayor? What's on the horizon?
Welcome to Kingdom Blueprint, guys. How you doing? My name is Josh.
And I'm Lee.
And we have an honored guest here.
Mayor Robert Murray.
Of Waxhaw.
And this is the Kingdom Blueprint.
Yes.
Excited to be here.
Hello, Kingdom Blueprint.
Yes, this is our third episode that we're recording here. So just to jump right into it, I have a question.
Go for it.
Yeah, go ahead. Jump right into it.
What was it that made you agree to this?
The podcast?
Yeah.
Just kind of getting my voice out there. I think that's kind of the fun part about being in a political position is sometimes you get exposed to folks that allow you to speak. And I think that that's one of the opportunities that with these types of podcasts and with any podcast, it's just an opportunity to speak and get my voice out there. So that's the main reason.
Okay.
Be heard.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, thank you for coming on.
Sure.
Seriously.
My
Definitely
pleasure.
an honor.
Obviously, before we even kick it off, thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Appreciate that.
And we were talking in the other episode on how shocked we were just to be able to have this opportunity. So thank you.
No, for real. It means the world to me. It's the world to you.
Yeah.
It means the world to everybody. Thank you.
That's good.
All right. So
Jump right into it.
all right. So my first question for you, Mr. Mayor, is what sparked your journey into the public service?
The main thing that sparked my journey, I would believe, is some of the changes that I saw in my hometown where I came from. Being from California originally, we moved here a couple years ago. I was able to witness a lot of the decay that was occurring in a lot of the towns in and around the Bay Area. Having grew up in the Bay Area, I saw what it was like in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. So to see where it is today and what has become of it today, people fail to realize that a lot of what's happening there is policy driven. It's not just taxes got a little high and some medical bills were a little high and suddenly people are living on the streets. No, there's certain policies that have enabled a lot of what's going on there. On top of the high taxes and whatnot that you have in California.
We've heard.
Yeah, it can be kind of crazy. And then you throw some high gas prices on top of it. So,
Yeah.
so there was a lot of policy-driven things that I thought were not going well in that state, and recognizing that it was a matter of the elected officials that had the control of these policies, you start to realize, okay, you're going to start new, you're going to start fresh. Okay, are you going to let the changes occur and not try to impact policy? Or are you just going to stand by like you did last time? So that's kind of a big part of the inspiration, was just sort of seeing how much things changed where I'm from and hoping that maybe I can have a voice and have an influence on things changing here in Waxhaw. So that's kind of what inspired me to jump in. And then as I learned more about Waxhaw and some of the challenges within Waxhaw, that's what really kind of inspired me to kind of jump in and say, hey, maybe I can influence things in a positive direction that people might appreciate a little more.
Yeah.
Right.
Let me ask you this. Why North Carolina?
North Carolina's why not Texas? Nah, Texas is flat. So my wife and I did a trip through the South, and I have to admit that you mentioned Texas because a lot of Californians moved to Texas. So I hadn't been to Texas, hadn't spent any real time in Texas, but I had this preconceived notion that it was pretty flat, gets pretty hot, gets pretty cold. So, Texas wasn't really, it didn't spark me as a place to really look at.
Yeah.
So my wife and I were really looking at the South and the Southeast in particular. So we did a trip a few years ago where we landed in Nashville and then drove to the coast, basically to Charleston and then down to St. Augustine. So we were looking at Nashville, Knoxville, Asheville, and then Charlotte.
Everything with Bill.
Exactly. All the bills. Check the bills out. Looked at a few of the burgs, Harrisburg, Greensboro.
Wow.
Then made our way to the coast, saw Charleston, St. Augustine. And we did that in July. So we knew it's hot and humid here. And that's, as a Californian, that's such a foreign concept
Yeah.
to have humidity in the summer. California, they're soft. They're soft and spoiled because at around 7 or 8 o'clock, a little after sunset, the ocean breeze comes in and the AC kicks on. And it's
Doesn't like an
suddenly
ocean
nice in the evenings. Whereas here, it's like hot and it stays hot. It's going to be hot till August.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to learn that too.
Exactly.
Coming from Boston, yeah.
Yeah. So we had to do it. So we did this trip in the summer. So to get a real sense of, okay, what's it like? Like, yeah, it's hot. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but you just go inside. Everybody's got the AC on. So it's fine. So we did that trip and just was struck by how clean and nice Charlotte was and how friendly the people were in Charlotte.
Very true. Very true.
And we got a big validation of our decision, I think, was our first 4th of July here. We go to see the Knights play, the local AAA team. And it was actually the American team, the Stars versus the Stripes. So it wasn't even the minor league team. But anyway, the park is downtown here in Charlotte.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And after the game, they had the fireworks. Then after the fireworks, okay, we're feeling a little hungry. And we had heard about a place called Midnight Diner.
I've heard of it. Haven't been yet.
So we check out the Midnight Diner. So in Charlotte, midnight, and yeah, because this was after the fireworks, after the game, so it's like 11 or 12 o'clock. And we're walking from the ballpark to the Midnight Diner, which was about 3/4 of a mile. You could not walk 3/4 of a mile in San Francisco and not fear for your life at some point. Or be highly concerned about your safety at some point.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, we did that walk and it was fine. Nobody accosted us. Nobody was approaching us. Nobody was giving you the side eye or anything like that. So it was a real validation of, yes, we made the right call. So that was kind of our read on the town when we first saw it a few years ago. And then our first real night out was confirmation of that.
Oof.
But that's what struck us. We like the rolling hills, all the green. Florida, the coast, kind of flat. And
All the storms.
Yeah,
A lot of storms.
the storms just
Hurricanes,
come right in.
hurricanes, and
Nothing
hurricanes.
slows them down.
Nope.
So we liked it. We just fell in love with kind of the topography of the place, the rolling hills, the nature of, you're high and then you're low. And then the greenery, being from California, the fires, the long, dry summers. Things get very brown and they stay that way for a very long time. And then autumn hits and then the winds kick up and then you get worried about smoke and fires. So we wanted to get away from that. And that's really what we fell in love with the Charlotte area, was that the greenery, the rolling hills, just the pastures that are out in Waxhaw and stuff. So we fell in love. We fell in love quickly.
I think it has like a great mix of like the suburban and like the city feel as well.
It does.
Yeah. Were you doing anything political in California, or did you just like kind of
Or
just
was it just like an aspiration?
right?
It was a little of both. I kind of dipped my toe in slightly by starting to go to a board of supervisors meetings in the town where I was from to talk about some of the issues that were going on. In particular, it was the sudden burst of homelessness. And this happened in 2018, 2019. And a lot of people in the area like to blame the fires that came through, and suddenly people are homeless. Fires came through Santa Rosa in 2017, burned down like 2,000 or 3,000 homes.
Wow.
Well, that summer, there was no burst of homelessness. It wasn't like everybody burned in October and then by November, the streets were filled with people living in tents. No. The people living in tents didn't show up for another year or two. And they weren't people that were burned out in the fires. They were people that were living the easy life on the street, doing whatever they wanted to do, and just clogging up the roads and the paths. And there was a jogging trail that went from one town to the next, and it was through some through some vineyards and some agricultural land, and it was just a great little walk to do, or a bike ride or whatever. And my wife would run this trail, so she was in the run club. And that trail was just completely clogged with homeless people. That just all of a sudden. And we're talking over the span of a month or two.
Oh.
That it went from there's nobody on this trail to there's one or two. Then within a month, okay, a coworker rode his bike along the trail, and you could see, people just all along the trail.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple months after that, you couldn't even do that. You would be accosted, you'd be approached, people would bar you from going any further. It's just you wouldn't be welcome.
So the switch was very abrupt.
It was quick. It was very quick. So me and other folks were going to council meetings, and we're trying to figure out what's going on and why the sudden change. What are we going to do about it? What can the town do about it? And all this stuff. And I start to realize that the political winds were not blowing in the direction that favored my point of view. So it was one of those things where, while the thought of running for some kind of public office was enticing, it was clear that if I got elected, I would be the lone voice against
the majority.
Against people allowing this unreasonable growth, just a very dangerous and hostile population.
They're dangerous. I can only imagine like the discouragement that could come along with it. The opposition, especially when you're trying to bring like a change and it's not favored.
Exactly. And a lot of the times too, especially with that particular issue, is everybody's just very kind of pie in the sky, sort of doe-eyed, like, oh, they just need our help. They just need a meal. They just need some shelter. It's like, no, they're here doing drugs, and they're doing drugs all day. And that's why they're here. That's what they want to do. So
no, seriously,
it's a little different from someone who got evicted because of a medical bill or something.
Yeah,
so
way different, very different.
So when you came to Waxhaw, was it like an immediate, like, all right, I want to go into politics over here, or was, you just relaxing with the family?
Yeah,
and
like
then there was a quick
was it like
switch?
an opening of the office that
Yeah.
you saw like an opportunity? Or?
Well, I met some friends, and we started talking about things. And one of the cool parts about the area is that it's a little more politically aligned with sort of my approach to things. And that was really made clear as I was meeting people, and we were talking about what it was like during the COVID years, and how the schools were open much quicker here than they were in California. And that was a big difference that kind of drew us to the area as well, was that North Carolina, Union County, Waxhaw, they're not all fired up to just shut down the schools every time someone sneezes. Whereas in California, they kept them closed almost as long as they possibly could, which was really kind of nutty. So I met some people that were working towards getting the masks out of the school during the COVID years. And they kind of got me interested in, well, what are some of the big issues going on here? And, well, some of the big issues are growth and the speed of growth and the density and some of these other issues. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, how can we grow more? My son's going to a school where they're in a portable. And I thought I left the portables behind, sort of the little mobile home type modular units they stick in our campus because all the classrooms are full. So that was kind of a disappointment. And then to hear that, wait a minute, we've already outgrown the school and we're still going to build more homes and grow even more. So I thought, well, maybe I can get involved in doing something about that. And that's where the whole idea of, well, do I just wait and let the change occur, or maybe get involved? And the opportunity arose to get involved. So I kind of jumped in. You have about 3 weeks to get your name on the ballot. So there's an opening period, and then there's 3 weeks to close. And that's when you sign up to get on the ballot. And me and the friends that I were talking with, we saw that the 3 incumbents, they were all wanting to be elected again, and nobody else was challenging them. Nobody else was challenging kind of their approach to things and their ideas. And I thought, okay, it's one thing to complain about things, but it's another thing to complain and do nothing about it.
Right.
Opportunity to do something about it. So me and 2 friends, we put our names on the ballot, and it was sort of us 3 against them 3, and we ended up winning. The 3 of us won. Which was kind of a cool thing. It was kind of a neat thing for sure. It was definitely one of those things where we were all nervously like, we all have to win. This cannot be
not like one person.
Exactly. One wins and the other loses. If I won and the other 2 lost, then it would be super duper awkward.
Yeah, very awkward.
Because it would have been really bad. But anyway, and all three of us won, and we've been able to do a few things and push back a little bit on some of the development. They're still getting approved because we don't have the majority of the board. It's a 5-person board, and it was me as the mayor and only 2 of the commissioners that were elected. So the other 3 are still there. They kind of have voting control of the board at this point. So some of these developments that we might not want to do, they're getting through. They're still getting through. So,
well, actually, let me back up a little bit. So, with that being said, did you get any backlash from technically being an outsider versus? I mean, I don't know the history of the other people that were running.
Yeah, or like them knowing like the demographic, like background, like you're from
they were
California,
born and raised there.
Exactly.
Like, you're gonna come over here and be mayor?
Well, that's the uniqueness that makes Waxhaw Waxhaw. First of all, you can't swing a stick without hitting a New Yorker.
That is so true.
And there's no, I don't want to say nobody, but the reality is 20 years ago, the town of Waxhaw was like 3,500 to 4,000 people. Now it's 2,300, or now it's 23,000 people.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we've gone from 4,000 to 20-some thousand in 20 years, which means the vast majority of the town has been there less than 10 years. Because even 10 years ago, Waxhaw was less than 10,000. So it has grown very quickly.
Yeah.
And that has created a situation where nobody's really from the area. Nobody's really born and raised. And it's not right, of course, to say nobody, because a lot of them have been.
Right.
They're still there.
Yeah.
And meeting some of those folks it kind of tugs at you a little bit, because a lot of them have kind of given up on this idea of curtailing growth or containing growth, because they've seen so much of it.
Right.
It goes from 4,000 or 5,000 people to 20,000 people in the span of 15, 20 years. And that's a kid's lifetime.
Right.
Where if you were born in 1990 and by the time you were 20, it's already much, much bigger, and all the fields you used to play in are gone, and the farms you used to go to are gone. And so that's kind of what people are kind of missing. So
honestly, where we moved down here in March, and just with me being down here, the place that I live now, it was all greenery.
Yeah.
And now it's all constructed.
Yeah. Getting built out.
So I'm just being here in less than a year, and I've already seen developments being put up.
The amount of development that I'm seeing in North Carolina in itself is crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's booming.
It is booming. A lot
good
of
for
people
real
want to
estate.
come here. A lot of people want to come here. It shows in the prices too. My wife and I joke, it's like, yeah, we should have moved 2 years earlier. So it's
No, seriously. Like it's definitely going up in prices. Everything. Cool. It's just everybody's like flocking here. I think there's so much pros and not as much cons as you think.
Right. In a world full of, obviously being mayor comes with so much responsibility. People wanting your attention here and there. On top of your personal life, wife, family, and then you being an engineer. How do you stay focused on what really matters with all the noise?
I'm good at compartmentalizing. It's really a matter of being able to take a breath and shift gears. And it's not uncommon from an engineering perspective, for instance, to do that as well. Just in my job professionally over the last 27, 28 years now. You're working on one thing, you're super focused on it, and then, okay, that task is done. All right, let's take a breath. We're going to change gears. Now we're working on this.
So you're very
it's kind of like that.
you just the adaptability.
Adaptability, exactly. Compartmentalizing, being able to just basically take a deep breath, clear your mind for a second, and then, okay, now I'm going to focus on this task, this new task. So, and that's kind of the nature of business and nature of what I'm doing at work a lot. So that's kind of what it's like with the mayor and the family and the job still.
That's good. That's definitely something that you need in order to be your position.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
know,
Let me ask something.
Go ahead.
What is the most unexpected thing that you've learned about yourself since becoming mayor?
I still can't change myself. That's one of the most unexpected / expected / one of those things where you continually try to self-improve and get better at things. And there's things where it's still a struggle. It's still hard to sit down and sometimes do the homework that needs to be done. I still get it done, but it hasn't gotten easier. And I thought it would, and it hasn't. And that's just a part of me. That's just a part of who I am. That's how I've always been.
Yeah.
And it's a classic sign of, you can change the location, but that doesn't change yourself.
You can take the person out of saying, I don't know.
Exactly. Take the girl out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the girl. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So
I think you would think about the dog one. You can't take the dog out of. I forget how it goes, but
I forget too. I don't know. I know it's something though. Wow.
What's another one, Lee?
So I would say, moving on, let's talk about, community building and community vision, right? So for the people watching, people who are new watching, old watching, of all ages. So we know that the small businesses are the heartbeat of any city, right? What would be your pitch to the entrepreneurs to start here in Waxhaw?
I think the biggest thing is the family feel, the small town family feel that you get from Waxhaw, and you'll get loyalty that I think you wouldn't get from other regions and other places. I think you'll get a family sense of familiarity with your clientele and your customers. So there's a good chance that your kids will go to school with their kids and that type of thing. You might end up going to the same church, or you'll be part of rival churches or something. You'll have something like that to connect you. So I think a lot of the business owners connect a lot with their clients, more in Waxhaw than they do other places. We do get a lot of pass-through traffic. We do get a lot of pass-through commerce. So you'll have plenty of sort of touristy type folks coming through. But I think your bread and butter from the locals, you'll get to know them. You'll get to meet them and learn about them. So I think that's a big part of why you'd want to be in Waxhaw as a business.
I think I can even attest to that too. You know how we talked about the Southern hospitality and everything like that. I mean, I can definitely attest to the Southern hospitality.
Oh, 100%.
Being down here, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
I want to get that bumper sticker. I need to make a bumper sticker or get a bumper sticker. But when I hear someone honking, for instance, because someone's not going on the green.
Yeah.
And just in LA, if you're not going the second it's green, people are laying on their horns hard. And someone did that once the other day, and I want to get the bumper sticker that says, "You're in the South now, don't honk." So it's like, take your time, let's relax. We're all friendly here. So.
Right. You don't get yelled at or threatened just for looking at somebody, it's crazy.
Ugh.
And wave, say hi.
Right.
That's what it's about.
What so far? So it's been what, 2 years?
Yeah, about 2 years, 2.5 years now.
As mayor or just living here?
Just living here, and then I finished 1 year as mayor.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Is there, I know things take time and all that as far as being in the politics. Is there anything recent that you were very proud of as far as accomplishing?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've managed to do is made some changes to the land development code. The downside of that is that it'll be a while before they really have an effect. They get implemented in the code pretty quickly, but because there's a line of developers that are already knocking on the door, they kind of get their application in under the old laws, under the old version of the land development code. But we brought in R2, which is 2 homes per acre. That was something that was pulled out of the land development code several years ago. So I put it back in, so at least it's an option. And then we introduced something called a conservation subdivision. And what that is if you have 100 acres and you want to build 200 homes, and, that would be roughly 2 homes per acre. Take those 200 homes and build it on 50 acres and then save the other 50. So leave the other 50 as open space, bike trails, running trails, parks, undeveloped land, basically. So that helps kind of keeps some of the developments a little bit more spread out and gives you, you know, basically uninterrupted natural space.
I like that. I'm
Yeah.
even speaking personally for myself. I like that. Like, don't turn it into a city if it doesn't need to be like a city.
Right.
Like, I don't need like. I think one thing about being down here is I love the greenery. I like being
Yeah.
able to, you know, drive past farms. I like being able to drive past 50 acres of land,
Yeah.
and I would like to be able to continue to do it.
Yeah.
It'd be nice.
It'd be nice, but obviously I'm saying like down here, you know, the developers and everything. Like I get it, but I think that's very good.
Yeah, being from north, you don't see signs saying 40+ acres for sale.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't see
Exactly.
that at all. So it's just
Yeah.
like, wow.
Even up in Massachusetts, if you see, paraphrasing, maybe like 5-10 acres,
If that.
ridiculous. It is like it's unheard of.
Right.
You're not gonna see it.
And if you do see it, the prices are astronomical.
Oof. Astronomical. So I think, all right, so leaning off of that question, right? Of the question of your accomplishments, what is one thing you would say about our city that people underestimate? And how can we own it? Or even if you, like, if they're just talking to you, like, even if you're just expressing it, like, from a personal side. Like,
Yeah, because people they see Waxhaw. When you drive through it, you see it, you think charming, you think small town,
Yep.
you think friendly. And I think that's what people get. And you get charming, you get patriotic, you get friendly. So the town is it's an open book. It is what it appears to be. So it's definitely not a place where people are putting on airs and pretending to be something they're not.
like that.
It's a very social town with a very alive social scene, I think, within the neighborhoods and within the communities and such. It's not the kind of place where the bars are open till 2 and everybody's drinking and
Yeah.
having a good time. But in terms of the social nature of everybody, there's always Christmas parties people are hosting, and your neighbors are always doing stuff, and it's amazing how much more sociable it is here and how much friendlier it is here.
Yeah, no, even with like the center of Waxhaw and the festivals and the food truck festivals and the Christmas festivals, like everything, it's constantly every weekend. It's like something's happening. It's amazing.
It's a busy time of year for us. So especially this time of year, I think, what do we have? We did Wreaths Across America last weekend, and then the day after Christmas, we'll light the menorah, and then we'll have, and then that will pretty much conclude kind of our busy season for our Parks and Rec department and all the events that we do, because it starts really with Autumn Treasures in the fall. So we have Autumn Treasures where we have a lot of commerce, a lot of artisans come together, and music on a stage for the entire afternoon, 2 days in a row. And then after Autumn Treasures, we have the tree lighting, and then the Christmas parade, and then we have a big Veterans Day parade or Veterans Day ceremony that we do. We have a 9/11 ceremony that's done. Wreaths Across America. So it's a very patriotic town that does a lot to honor and respect our veterans and our first responders. So I think a lot of people appreciate that. And I think that stems from the population of the town, which is a lot of former New York and New Jersey police and fire.
I think even just to go back on what you were saying, and it can really, it's like a testament to the family feel, like the family oriented, the charming, the small town and everybody,
Exactly.
being integrated with each other. You know what I'm saying? And like things like that. So switching gears a little bit.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, right? Yeah, right?
Are we getting
not so
juicy?
much switching gears, segueing into it. So, reading your bio, you have said that, talked about faith, right? So, my question to you in regards to everything that we've been talking about is what's one, so the topic of this, let me go back. It's the faith, wisdom, and decision making, how this is all tied together. Right? Because obviously being an engineer, it's critical thinking, it's problem solving. Those are all just characteristics that tie
Analytical.
into, and faith ties right into those things. So what's one piece of advice that you've leaned on when the pressure has been at its highest?
I think one of the things I do for every board meeting is I have a moment of silence to give thanks and praise. And that was a compromise that we made with the rest of the board, where instead of having an invocation by a pastor or something, we're just doing a moment of silence. So in that moment of silence, I basically say to myself, and my prayer basically is, let me speak through you. Give me your words, Lord. And so I ask God and I ask Jesus for just give me your words so I can speak through you. And that's what does a pretty good job of keeping me calm and keeping me centered while I'm there and things get a little bit heated. So that's what I try to do with when things kind of are about to get serious. I try to remember that. And that's something that's a new thing. And for me, that's one of these things that making the move to the Bible Belt was kind of one of those things I kind of wanted to do and leverage that move. Because it's a little easier and a little freer here than it was on the left coast
100%.
to pursue some of your religious leanings.
And publicly, too.
Publicly, exactly. And to talk about it with people and have a conversation with folks, coworkers, for instance. So I think I pursued that. And the first couple of years here really, really got into it. And that's what I say, you can't really change yourself. That's kind of what I was getting at earlier, is that it's still work. It's still something you have to work at. So you can try to follow God's word. You can try to follow his voice and his advice as much as you can, but the temptations are still there.
Right.
So even though it's a little easier here, it's all still there.
It's all still there.
So it's one of those things where you got to continue to put in the effort and work at it.
I think that it's inspiring, but it's just a testament to, and honestly, like when I hear faith, I think that is really the biggest thing you can do. Is even in crunch times, if you are saying just speak through me, that's the best thing you can do in those times. Because honestly, I think that that's what God wants to do.
Yeah.
He wants to speak through you, and I think he wants to be invited in. And I think in that moment, what you described is him being invited in. Right. And before you ask your next question, because I know I've been asking a few.
No, you're good. You're good.
Honestly, I think that ties right into what you were saying. It's so small to maybe anybody else, but like you were talking before, Josh, and it's kind of when I was just feeling like out of whack, and paraphrasing everything that he really just said, and that and you just talked about how crucial it is just to win your days. Like everybody always wants to think about the bigger picture, and you can think like you were talking about like how you're always a work in progress, and but we can get so consumed by like the bigger picture, like I'm not this yet, I'm not that yet, like I don't like this, I don't like that about myself. And I think if we just focus on winning our days, which in that moment, it's like what I hear, it ties right into that. You just focus on winning that moment. How can I do my best, be my best self in that moment? And I'm just saying that's like
you really like that one, because that was years ago, and this is not the first time you brought that up.
That's me ever since. Go ahead.
Stuff that sticks.
Honestly, I have a question, and feel free not to answer. I'm a conspiracist, for lack of a better word.
You ain't a conspiracy theorist these days. I don't know. You just ain't paying attention.
Right, exactly. And a lot of all right, I'll just save that. But anyways, what is your opinion on I don't know how true it is, obviously, but every hierarchy of the politicians being involved in some type of cult, for lack of a better word?
No, that's an interesting thing, because that's been around for a while. in my time kind of paying attention and looking at things, it all started, I think, with the whole Pizzagate thing, and how Hillary Clinton got wrapped around this scheme or this conspiracy that she was somehow involved in some things. And
that was wild when that came out.
that was crazy. It was absolutely
wild.
But it's also one of those things where you start to wonder if little pieces come out that people then start adding to, and what may have been something worth pursuing and investigating, it becomes a game of telephone, and then it morphs into something completely different.
Oh yeah. Once it turns into a telephone,
So-
who knows what's going to be said?
Exactly. And then it just gets wildly off track. And it's like, well, can we focus on maybe what was the real original,
Right.
the genesis of that? What was the original concept that they were talking about that was going on with something like that? And I think we lose sight of those too easily. I think when you get to a certain level, I do believe that the ultra wealthy and the world leaders exist in a universe that's a little bit different from ours. And I think as such, they're able to satisfy their more base instincts. Whereas we, being a little bit more constrained financially and power-wise, influence-wise, we are very constrained into. So we try to live good lives. But I think when you have people that are really, really rich, they don't have to operate within those confines.
Right.
So, and they're free to do their own things. So are they part of a cult? Are they part of something? I don't think it's a cult that's organized and structured as much as it is just a tendency for those that play on their base instincts to kind of conglomerate and they get together. And I think that that's where the stories start. So when you hear things going on today, with P. Diddy and Epstein's Island, those are prime examples of a certain amount of power, a certain amount of influence, just kind of running amok. And they might be examples, P. Diddy and Epstein and others might be examples of the ones that got caught, or are they the ones that, they stepped out of line somehow
And we're forced to get caught.
caught. There was
We can go way left on that one.
Now you're getting into it.
no, there was a good one. There was one where this one video was, I think, was it LaToya or was it Janet? It was either LaToya or Janet Jackson was on The View, and Whoopi Goldberg kind of hushed her because she was starting to get into the people that were after Michael, I think. And this idea that
Oh, we're getting juicy.
exactly. And there was this idea that, Michael was trying to do things that were outside of where you're supposed to go. And so it's like, well, wait a minute. And someone had a video that said, no, Michael was trying to get a certain amount of freedom and autonomy and trying to do certain things. And others were not interested in him having that power because they wanted to do what he was talking about doing.
Right.
And there was this one video that had Michael's voice saying, basically laying out the whole Marvel Studios model with Disney. Basically talking about how, this is what we should do. And this was in the 90s. And what it became was Marvel Studios and Disney and that whole thing. And so this idea that, Michael was still having these ideas and was still being creative, even from a business standpoint. And people maybe sort of...
People don't know how smart he was business-wise.
Yeah.
Didn't he own the rights to the Beatles?
He had the Beatles library for a while, I think.
Michael Jackson.
He had the Beatles library for a while,
Yeah, and that in itself is a whole thing of control and money
That's news to me.
with Sony. Yeah,
owning music libraries.
that's huge.
Taylor Swift is the latest in that saga. But owning people's music libraries is a big business.
Wow.
How do you feel about her doing rituals on stage?
Who?
Taylor Swift.
I don't know if she's doing anything. I haven't seen any of it. So
Oh, it's clear. They're no longer hiding it anymore.
Yeah.
They're literally doing like
No. Yeah.
crazy stuff. Definitely look into it. But To realize I was back in a little bit.
Come on back.
So what's next?
The drones are aliens. What are you talking about? Jersey's overrun with Martians.
What's next for Waxhaw?
What's next for Waxhaw? Gosh, that's a good question. The big thing that I'm trying to bring into Waxhaw, and I'm still trying to figure out how to do it, is going to be more parks, more fields and more parks. I think is a big part of what Waxhaw needs. And then as far as our downtown goes, I think we need to grow the downtown a little bit more to accommodate some of the businesses that want to be there. But balancing that with the traffic and the parking,
With the traffic,
those are going to be perpetual traffic.
Waxhaw traffic.
Honestly, it's only in downtown. That's my only issue. But the train
Downtown
tracks,
is where I need
and
to
I
go.
live right there. We both live right there.
Right there. And
That's nuts.
downtown is where I go through.
And
That
just to
traffic,
get to his house, which is only 4 minutes away,
Yeah.
it can take 20 minutes.
it's like, come on,
It's just that one
street.
street. I don't know what street it's called.
I
but
found a little cheat code though. You got to go.
Oh, I found the street code too.
Instead of going straight to, you got to go around a little bit.
100%. Yeah.
But
Get on one of the side streets.
yeah.
I definitely think that's good. So more like recreation spots of like being able
That's
to.
a big thing because I've been involved recently with Waxhaw Athletic is a nonprofit that coordinates and runs. They do all the programming for our athletics: baseball, soccer, flag football, volleyball, lots of different stuff.
Oh.
And so one of the things that we're talking about is field usage and the fact that the soccer is using the fields all year round. And so they're natural turf fields. And, you can't run on grass all year round without the grass finally saying, that's it, I can't do this. I'm going to die now. So they're constantly asking, the town for some kind of help or support to find more parkland. So that's a big thing. And it's unfortunate that where most of the kids are playing now is on a park that does tend to flood. So when we have big rain events, it will flood. And that makes things difficult from a maintenance standpoint, a longevity standpoint.
Right.
Trying to find parkland is a big thing. We have a Waxhaw Community Theater. They would love to have some sort of venue. But where do you put something like that? Who's going to fund it? Those are the two big questions. Where do you put it? Who's going to buy it? Who's going to pay for it?
You said a theater?
Yeah, there's a Waxhaw theater group that is in town, and they do small production stuff.
Okay.
That would be cool.
To do like live performances?
Yeah,
That would be really cool. Yeah.
real
That
theater
would be
stuff.
very cool.
Yeah, that's all like stuff I wanted to get into, but
Yeah, me too.
in the city in Boston, it's just super expensive.
Expensive, hard.
Yeah.
It's just, everything's just out of.
Yeah, everything's
out of
crazy
reach
up north.
in Boston. Yeah, no.
I imagine that's an expensive town, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a few other questions that like I would love to hear your response for.
Wait. Before you do that, I have a business question.
Go ahead.
Would it throw that off or a little segue?
You can segue.
Okay. What types of businesses would you recommend to come into Waxhaw immediately?
Personally.
Personally. Yeah.
Oh, a Lego store. No, you said personally.
My son would love that.
You said personally. Sorry. The data is women's shopping, women's clothing. That's where some of the data that was presented to the board last year
Really.
was pointing towards was that there was a strong need. And what's funny is I looked at some of these reports and some of these data, some of these data sets, and the report from 5 or 6 years ago, 8 years ago, was saying we needed more auto service. And someone apparently saw that data because today in Waxhaw, there's plenty of places to get your oil changed and to get a car wash.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be another car wash that's coming to town too.
Yeah, tons of car washes.
But the data right now is saying that we need more women's boutiques for women's clothing and stuff, because that does drive a lot of foot traffic. That's just kind of the browsing, the kind of checking things out. So yeah, that's one that it would be nice to bring to town a little bit more. But downtown Waxhaw right now is, I like to tell people, it's 99.999% occupied.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah.
gosh, there was one business that the store was owned by, or the building's owned by somebody, but the woman who had the main lease sublet a part of the store to another woman who wanted to do more clothing and such. Well, when the woman who had the main lease said, okay, I'm moving on, this is not what I want to do, the other one just said, okay, fine, I'll take it all. And so she grew her business into the entire floor space. So that's an example of a tenant that turned over without the place ever getting vacant. It was never vacant.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So it's downtown real estate in Waxhaw is that on demand. People want to be there because we have all the festivals, because we have a lot of events. And it is kind of a critical thoroughfare to get through that region of West County.
Yeah.
So people are always driving through. So that foot traffic is a big draw for a lot of businesses. So the data says women's clothing, personally, a Lego store.
I think Lego store would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been on the rise too lately. But
Switching gears, 'cause I want to hear something personal. How do you keep the balance between keeping it real with people, but also like managing like keeping like the political line things, but then keeping it real, like keeping it like actually real?
I've had the good fortune of having a big mouth for much of my life. And my dad called me motor mouth when I was a kid.
Oh, mine too.
I had a reputation early on of saying just the wrong thing at just the right time. So I have a lifetime of external influences trying to control what I say.
Yeah.
And I think I've finally grown to a point to where I think I can do that on my own now. And that's a big part of the political side of things is not saying too much while saying the right amount. I'm never going to say, well, I got to sound genuine. I don't know how not to sound genuine.
Perfect.
I can try to be disingenuous about stuff and try to sell you on something, but I worked sales a long time ago when I was a kid, and it was one of those things where if I didn't really believe and understand the product, then I couldn't sell it because I couldn't be disingenuous about it. It was just very, very difficult for me.
That's amazing though.
So-
That's a great quality, honestly.
Yeah, so for me, it's kind of easy to stay genuine because I'm so terrible at being disingenuous, and I'm so terrible at holding my tongue sometimes. I don't know how many times, even now over the last couple of years, my wife's like, "Why did you say that?" And so I still get it.
Talking to me.
Yeah, it's just not as much as I used to, so which is good. So I've learned how to moderate it a little better.
Okay. Well, that's definitely that's an art. That's something I like to talk about as an art. If you can learn yourself and when not to say something and when to say something, then you can tell that you really that's growth.
Exactly.
Because trust me, being a motor mouth, I've been called a motor mouth as well. And honestly, my dad's name is Robert Murray.
No way.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
we made a joke about that last night on the other show that we did.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Funny coincidence.
I know, yeah.
Yeah. Got another one?
No, I don't.
So I do. I got
You know,
two more.
I just want to add to that one little thing. There's the common phrase people talk about of like, people don't wait. People aren't listening. They're still waiting to talk. And when I'm listening, I'm trying to think of all the things I shouldn't be saying right now. So as I listen to people, more often than not, I'm thinking about, okay, don't say that. Okay, don't respond that way. Definitely don't say that. So you're just trying to focus on the listening. And that's really where the learning to listen comes in, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's learn to listen while figuring out what not to say.
Yeah, well, I think if you can learn to listen, then honestly, you've become a valuable person.
Yeah, especially in the
Because-
sales force.
yeah.
Like, even the
Right.
Bible says slow to speak,
So to speak.
Yeah,
Good.
no, that goes right back to that. It goes
Slow
right
to
back to
speak.
faith.
Yeah,
Right?
my wife will complain. It's like, why do you say that? And I'm saying stuff around the house or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I finally explained to her, if she's complaining about what I'm saying around the house, she needs to understand that A, I'm in my home, and B, she's getting the first draft. She's getting the roughest of rough drafts. This is my first chance at saying something.
Yep.
So she's like the first filter. And if it doesn't get past her, then it's like, all right, I got to rethink that
Yeah.
line.
No.
So it's
Thank God for the wives.
you
Thank God.
just explain. They need to set their expectations nice and low because it's all a rough draft.
All right, I got two more, and then we can wrap this out. For the hustlers and the dreamers listening, what's one thing they can do to create meaningful change in their community? Because I think that your background is the epitome of that. I think hustler, dreamer, honestly, I mean, yeah.
He moved and became mayor immediately.
Exactly.
He said, you know
Moves,
what?
big
Everybody
moves.
move aside.
Big moves. Literally took big chances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a prime example is just not being afraid. Don't overthink it sometimes. But when I think about trying to make a big change or having a big footprint in your community, for instance, it's starting small is the best way to kind of help figure out where your footprint needs to be. One of the things that I learned years ago about patents and getting a patent is that patents are nothing more than slats in a picket fence. That's all a patent is. It's this one little barrier, and you can go around it on this side, you can go around on that side, but the picket fence has one little barrier. And so you can think about where to leave your mark and how to leave a big footprint in your community is, okay, where is the fresh sand that my footprint will be seen? That's one way to look at it. But the other side of it is, okay, where's the need? Where's the real need? Where's the empty space that needs to be filled, either in someone's life or in the community as a whole? Where's the empty spot? Where's the untreated, the unseen, the not quite elevated to the level it needs to be? Where is that? And starting small around the edges to try and identify that, I think, is a good way to maybe leave a big footprint. And then when you find it, when you spot it, go for it.
Perfect.
And then don't hesitate. Don't overthink it.
Perfect.
That kind of goes along with what I've been saying the past couple of days.
It has, and I was trying. I'm trying not to
Can I
bring
say
everything
it? Can I
back
say
to you. You've been saying it.
So I've been asking people, where do they think the richest place on the planet Earth is? And you would get an average answer like, what's the
I
first
said
place
Saudi
on your mind?
Arabia, Dubai, maybe.
Dubai, those are the
Probably.
places. But the richest place in the world are the graveyards. And that's because of how the fear that people have allowed to consume their minds. You've lost out on all the multi-million-dollar ideas that could have been. So
Fear is a killer.
Fear is a killer.
I'm glad that you brought that up because fear is a killer. It really is. I think it's a silent killer.
yeah, it is.
It's a very silent killer. It's made me do things, and it's what I'm trying to do as the mayor. One of the things I'm trying to push people more on is this idea that don't be afraid of what could be. Look at what's here, and that's happened with some of the land developments that have come about. Is they try to say, well, they could do this by right, but this plan's better. And I thought, well, if they could do that by right and it made them money, we'd be talking about that. But we're talking about this.
Right.
So let's not worry about what could be.
Yeah.
Let's focus on what this is.
So like the reality instead of the
The
possibility.
reality and not the possibilities. Exactly. So focus on what's in front of you, focus on what you can control, and don't worry about the obstacle that's there or the fear that's there or the scary alternative, the scary possibilities.
Perfect.
One of my biggest struggles with my daughter years ago, we were having a conversation and I kept telling her, it's like, you're thinking about the obstacles.
Yep.
And you need to think of these, they're just little obstacles. They're not big walls and barriers that will prevent you from being where you want to be. It's just an obstacle. You can get around this. And if you start focusing on the obstacle, you hit it.
Yeah. Very true.
So that's a big
The
lesson.
obstacle, the little pebble or the step turns into a mountain.
Right.
And then it's hard to climb. All right. So I know time is ticking. If you're comfortable, basically, if I can put it into words, what's next for you as mayor? What are some exciting plans, personal goals? What's on the horizon for you as the mayor?
Do you want to run for
after your
mayor
time.
again, or do you
After
want to
your
go to the next
time.
level?
Yeah.
So once to 2027, right? Until 2027.
7.
Once 2027 hits, what's next?
Well, I'd like to get reelected. Mainly because I think by the time my second term rolls around, I will have 4 years of experience. And I think that would make that second term a little better than the first. So I would want another crack at it, I think, is kind of the idea that I'm thinking. And then what would be beyond that? I don't know. That puts me at about 60. The thought of Congress has entered my mind because I've met with state senators and state representatives, and I've met with congressional candidates and congressmen. So that kind of position and that kind of thing is also interesting and enticing. So
I can only imagine.
we'll see. I don't know if more can come from that, but it's a thought. It's something I've entertained for sure.
Perfect. Well,
I have a question, like a personal question, but nothing like crazy. So you seem like a very wholesome, laid back, relaxed, very patient type of guy. So two
very
questions.
patient.
What pisses you off?
No, seriously.
Like, what makes you mad? Because I can't see you being mad.
Let's get the wife here. She can probably explain
Oh,
that.
jeez.
A lot does, and that's the reality of things. And I thought one of the best lines in the Avengers movies is when people are telling Bruce Banner, it's just like, how do you control it? And there's the scene where Tony Stark's kind of needling him. And
Yeah.
what are you using? Bongos, big bag of weed? What is it? What's the secret? And then later in the movie, they need him to be the Hulk. So he's just like, you're asking me how I do it? It's like, I'm mad all the time. Boom, he's Hulk now. So it's this idea of what pisses you off. It's like, there's a lot that does, but what pisses me off to get a reaction, it's hard to really point it out because it could be anything on any given day. Mainly because somebody can do something to me and then someone else can do the exact same thing. And then, okay, now I'm angry. And it's like, well, the same thing happened over here and you didn't get mad. How come you're mad over here?
Right.
And usually it's some underlying thing that I wasn't necessarily acknowledging that was kind of aggravating me or frustrating me. So what gets me mad is a tough question because a lot of times this is something that I try to explain to my wife. The thing that makes me the most mad, that causes me to really be like, is my own mistakes.
Okay, that's a good one.
If I've done a mistake that is a bad one that I knew, that will really set me off. And then it's just like, so you now have to fix a mistake, but now you're angry. And that's the epitome of this idea of controlling your anger and sort of leveraging and sort of molding and directing it. Because if you've made a mistake, you're pissed off at yourself for making the mistake, getting more angry and losing total control is not an option because you got to fix your mistake.
Right.
So keeping a lid on it is kind of how things go.
That's good. Wise words right there. Okay. What is a pet peeve? Mine, I hate wet socks. Like, I put a fresh pair of socks on after I get ready. I go back into the bathroom, and then, I don't know, a wet spot from getting out the shower or something. That just sets me off.
That is why I do not put my socks on until I'm ready to put on my shoes. You finish all the bathroom business. You get the hair done. You get the teeth brushed. You get all it done. And then you can even put on your pants and your shirt, check your shirt, make sure everything's tucked in right. Then go put on your socks. Yeah. And don't ever go back in the bathroom. I've learned that years ago because, stepping on a wet spot in a sock. Now, I get frustrated at home when folks aren't cleaning up after themselves because I'm definitely neater than everyone else in the house. So that's a constant source of frustration. So, that's why
Is that something your wife would combat? Like, would she say, no, I'm the neatest person, or would she...
Oh, there's no way she's saying she's the neatest. She knows she's not there.
She knows that one. Okay.
She knows and accepts and appreciates the fact that I don't blow my top every time she leaves something out or whatever.
That's good.
'Cause I've lived with kids for 20 some years now, and so kids are always leaving stuff around. And, there's times when you want to lose your ass on it, and times you just figure, okay, just let it go.
Yeah. I can attest to that one. I have one last one, and that's, what do you like to do for fun?
For fun, let's see here. Getting in the garage, woodworking, working with my hands.
Like
Is that-
sculpting?
Not sculpting, no, just a cabinet building, furniture making, something
Wow.
useful, to make something useful.
That's intriguing.
Interesting.
I did
That's very
a,
intriguing.
Interesting.
I'm working on a cutting board my son started. I'm trying
Right.
to finish it. I did a cabinet thing a few months ago. A place to store the pots, and it comes out. It's got a soft close. Things like that.
Okay.
Oh, wow. It's always something I wanted to get into.
Right.
No, years ago
Never
I made a
had to.
desk. I made a desk years ago, and I'm looking at my desk at home now, and I really want to make another desk. The one I made during COVID, I wanted to make it and decided that I would build it and had it designed before COVID hit, and then COVID hit, and I started it in January of 20, and then COVID hit. I'm working from home, and it's like now I really need a desk. And it still took me 6 months to make this desk.
Oh, wow.
The first 2 months were a slow start because my wife and I went on a long vacation and stuff. So it was the first start. The start was pretty slow, but because it's not a simple, easy thing to build something you've never built, having never built a desk,
Yeah.
it's always a 2-step forward, 1-step back kind of process.
Right. You're learning as you go.
You learn as you go, and you get creative about hiding your mistakes.
That's kind of the epitome of this show. We're learning as we grow.
Exactly. Work on the editing, and you hide all your mistakes.
Oh my gosh, that's the worst part.
There's
Editing is the worst part.
a classic
Yeah.
saying I heard years ago: if you don't get good at welding, then get good at grinding. Because if your weld sucks, you're gonna have to grind it out.
Right. Well, Mr. Mayor, we appreciate you coming on to the Kingdom Blueprint.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's
No
been
problem.
fun.
No problem. Hopefully, we can have a part 2 sometime in the near future.
That'd be great.
Oh, would love that. I would love that.
Yeah. Oh, we definitely need a conversation sometime in the near future with me and Lee off camera about your engineering skills for sure.
Yes.
Yeah,
We can talk
we're
about that.
working on something big, and
Yes, we are.
yeah, we would need your input on that for sure.
Happy to help.
100%.
But all right, guys, thank you for tuning in.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Enjoy your day.
Peace.
Take care.